how's it going? Oh, there's Miss Debbie Boyd all the way from Washington. So, oh, we got Carrie Mulcrone on. We got this is big time, Quint. Look at this.
I'm nervous. I wasn't nervous, but now.
So, good morning. Good morning, everybody. So, or afternoon, I guess, depending on where you are. It's early in the morning for Quint. So, he's still waking up. He's already had his piano recital. He's juggled. He's had coffee. Is that coffee?
Yeah, coffee.
He's got coffee. So we are in real trouble because he's caffeinated this morning. So this should be a very good time. So I'm excited about this topic, Quint. So this is going to be a lot of fun, I think. As you know, so I'm a big DISC fan. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you about the Enneagram and more about our personality types and how they affect the communication that we have and how that integrates within our customer experience. So everybody, just a reminder, this is not a webinar. It is not a podcast. So head to head is it's a live conversation and Quint competition. Okay, see, we're really going, we're going head to head.
Going at it.
So Quint and I are both encouraging you to dive in with us, ask questions. I'm going to be monitoring the chat as we go as best I can. So if you have anything, just type it up in the chat, and we'll swing back around to it. This is pretty much unscripted here. So we have our topic, we have a couple of points that we want to make, but otherwise it's pretty much unscripted, and it's about you. So. Again, thanks for joining us. I know everybody's so slammed right now. It's great to have everybody with us. Quint, you and I shared the big stage at IBS a few years ago. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this was the first educational, first official one. So you can see here's Quint and I with Anya. We did marketing versus sales. Whose job is it anyway? It was a riot. These two gave me a heart attack, but they totally bring it when the time comes. So it was awesome. It was a really strong presentation. So I'm looking forward to maybe having some more of those coming forward. So I am, as most people on here already know, I'm Kimberly Mackey. My company is New Home Solutions Consulting, and this is my website, so how you can reach me. And I like to say that I'm the person who comes in to make sure that sales is the engine that drives the train rather than running it off the tracks. So what I do is a little different. So I am a trainer. Most people just say, oh, Kimberly's a trainer, because those are the pictures that they see and what they think of. But I'm more of a behind the scenes person. I come in and do processes and make sure that your systems integrate and your workflow integrates, and that so you literally are not running out of land, or that you are creating a great customer experience. And I do train as a result of making sure that all of our systems work together. So I work with builders of all sizes, usually when they're in a stage where they've gone, oh my gosh, we're in growth mode and now we've got to take it to the next level. So that's usually when they bring me in. I had a really exciting conversation last evening with a builder about that very subject. And he's like, I need help. That's usually how the conversation starts. So if I can help you in any way, please feel free to reach out to me. And Quint, I'm going to throw it to you and let you talk about what you do, because you literally juggle a lot of balls. So
yeah, so I love new home sales. I believe we're in the best industry on the face of the earth, and I want to be in the center of the boat. And so I sell homes full time with a great builder called Hakes Brothers. I'm also a new home sales trainer and coach, and I'm kind of like the Joe Rogan of the home building industry. I do these interviews. I get out there, and to me, it's just curiosity. I'm really curious about human beings, human nature, personalities. I think human beings are fascinating, and there's an art and science to what we do. And I'm on a mission to uncover the secrets, to find the best practices, the ideas, insights, and best practices. So that's what I do, and I'm excited to be on your program, Kimberly. I'm a big fan, and I love what you're doing. And I can't wait to talk about the Enneagram. The Enneagram for me has been a game changer, and it's something I'm super passionate about, and I use it every day. It helps me with sales, helps me with people, all of it. So.
Well, then let's get started, guys. We normally don't have slides, but this was a little complicated to try to explain without some visuals. So we have thrown a few visuals in here for you, and then we will switch back to just, just the screen with the two of us. But Quint, kicks us off really well. So thank you for agreeing to do this, because I think it's an important conversation. Why don't you talk to us and walk us through the 9 different types that the Enneagram, and just tell us a little bit about the Enneagram in general.
Yeah. So number one, the Enneagram is not going to put you into a box. This is from I think Russ Hudson in his book, the Wisdom of the Enneagram. It says it actually shows you the box that you're already in, and actually kind of provides a way out. Shows you the patterns and behaviors. Think of it as a GPS for human nature. Now, we intuitively know that humans are different, but it's tough to totally map it out. I like to say, like, imagine if you are from a certain city. Where are you from, Kimberly?
I'm originally from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay. Well, if you went back to Knoxville, you probably would not need a map to go to Walmart, right? Depending on how much development or wherever you're from.
Oh, it's changing left and right there. Okay. But yeah, but right here in Tampa, I wouldn't need a map.
Yeah,
no.
You just go to the store, right?
Right.
Well, that's kind of like our own type. We know our own type. And I believe in sales and even with marketing, we're very successful at reaching our type. But there's 9 other types. Quickly, just running through them. It's actually not the reformer. It's the reformer or perfectionist. It's the helper. Type 3 is the achiever. 4 is the individualist. 5 is the investigator. 6 is the loyalist. 7 is the enthusiast. 8 is the challenger, and 9 is the peacemaker. And we can switch it off the thing if you want.
Do you want to go to the next slide or no?
No, let's just go to live. Let's just
okay.
talk.
All right. Well,
I don't like slides. I don't like.
All right. There you go.
Yeah. So with these 9 types, so imagine, again, you have these 9 cities, and we're very, very comfortable in our own cities. And that's why we were talking about conversion ratios. Most people are very successful, probably about 10% of the population, which is their own type. They're comfortable. They usually speak to their type. They use words and phrases and methodologies that would make their type very comfortable. But what if we could go to all 9 types? And that's what the Enneagram does. It's almost like a GPS for human nature, understanding that there are the complexities and the nuances, and that human nature is very sophisticated. And I think this is the best tool for understanding how a person feels, thinks, acts, behaves. And it's a beautiful system. So.
It's interesting that you said that, because I was working with a salesperson in Phoenix, and a little unusual path for him. So he was in the DISC terms, he was like the C, the high compliant, the analytical type. So depending on which one you look at. But he one of the things I found really interesting, I couldn't figure out why his conversion rate at the lower price point was so much less than the person who also was there at the higher price point, until I realized what his DISC profile was. And then I started looking at his customers. So I was checking them out, and I found out that almost every buyer that he had sold was also analytical. They were military, they were engineers, they were accountants, they were that high analytical type buyer, because those were the people that he related to the most.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And the DISC is a powerful, I suggest anything about human nature, personality. Understand this, that if we're in real estate, we're really in 2 businesses. We're in real estate, specifically new home sales, but then we're in the human nature, business.
Absolutely.
So I'm always fascinated by, I have a degree in human communication, not like digital stuff, but like, we would read books on cultural communication. So if somebody comes in there from a different culture, do you shake hands? Do you bow? There's a thing called proxemics. That has changed a lot in the last year. How close do I stand to another person? Well, with COVID, it's a lot farther away, so like understanding these nuances, I would back up like this. I wish I knew this back in the day. When I back up, people come closer to me because it's that natural
interesting connection.
Yeah. So when I move forward, they kind of back off. But we have gender communication, culture communication, influence. There's some great books out there. I think the Enneagram is superior in a lot of different ways. So we talk about the DISC, and DISC is a powerful system. There are a lot of different names for the disc. You got the dominant, influence, the C is the compliant.
And S is the steady, yeah.
And S is the steady. All of those, where if they come in a level of 4, are based upon the original Greek temperaments of 800 years ago, which is, or 1,000 years, a couple thousand years ago, is the phlegmatic, choleric, sanguine, and melancholy. And they were functions of the body. Like phlegmatic was literally the phlegm, and it was like they weren't very acidic. They were just kind of getting along, and that's kind of the steady person. There was choleric, which is the bile from the stomach, which was acid, right? And that was the very dominant person. They're very aggressive. Then you got sanguine, which is blood. It literally means blood, and that's the influencers. I would fall under the I category of disc. But then you have Charles Clark III came out with bulls, owls, lambs, and tigers. The bulls, the dominant, the owls. When I first got into sales 20 years ago, it was promoter, supporter, analyst, controller. So they're always kind of broken up into the 4. Even the Myers-Briggs, even though they've got ENFP and ISTJ, whatever they are, that you've got the first quadrant, which is the E and the I, extrovert, introvert, and you've got the judging, perceiving. So, but the point is that if you break them up, it's really still 4 quadrants. What made that system popular is that they came up with a test, and the reason why they came up with a test, it was Catherine Briggs and Isabel Myers. It was a mother and a daughter who kind of studied the Jungian system of psychology, and then they added the last 4, which was judging and perceiving. And what their real contribution was creating a test where they could, get in and take a test. And it was really spearheaded because of World War II, because we're having a massive, massive war, and we're trying to figure out which soldiers would work best in which environment, because you don't want to take an eye and put them in the bottom of a ship, analyzing information.
No.
And then from there, hey, this can be used in schools, and this can be used in this. The Enneagram is different. What makes it different than all the other systems is it talks about the motive. So for DISC, for instance, DISC describes attributes, a temperament. So there's the difference between temperament and personality. The temperament's kind of like the human bent. The Enneagram goes to the core motivation, right? So if somebody was a compliant type, the analytical type, the next question is why? Why are they doing that? If somebody's the influencer type, the life of the party, why are they being the life of the party? If they're the dominant type, what's their core fear? What's their motivation? So the Enneagram actually uncovers that. It could be actually very manipulative because you understand it's like peeling behind the curtain and looking inside the human nature of childhood patterns, like what motivates them, what's their core fear, what's their core aspiration, right?
Well, and like Simon Sinek tells us, you start with the why, and when you start with the why, you will understand everything.
Keep going.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, when you can peel back, when you have that genuine curiosity, I think, to really peel back and understand why, or at least the result of the why when we're talking about somebody's personality, because you may not get to know them that well in a sales environment that it's not like you're sitting there having psychological sessions with them. But if you can start to identify those key traits, although, I have had some psychological sessions.
We actually do. Nowadays, I seriously, there, especially with COVID, I mean, people are under a lot of stress. I feel like half my sales sessions are like counseling sessions. It's almost like, okay, guys, just put on your psychologist hat.
That's why I got out of new home sales. I told that my boss said to me when he wanted to promote me, he said, "But you're so good at selling. Are you not going to miss this?" And I was like, it's too much. It's constantly too much. I feel like everything is a psychoanalytical session. So but then I went into sales management, and that was pretty much the same thing, with the same 8 people.
So let's talk about motivation. So let's say like, man, I understand the core motive of this human being, right? That brings out something which is very important to all salespeople, or it should bring out something, which is called empathy. And empathy is really understanding, wow, this is where they're coming from, and this is where, this is the pattern. So think about the body, the human body, right? It's very well organized. You're at 98.6, and that's so steady that you can almost go up to a human, and we're doing temperature checks to see if they're even off by a little bit. that's kind of like the personality. The personality runs the show behind the scenes. It's almost like an operating system on the computer. We're more alike than you might think. It doesn't mean that we're stuck by that, but these are patterns, because the brain is always trying to take activities and make them second nature. Does that make sense? So it doesn't have to think about when to blink and when to raise the temperature. They go into kind of the autonomic system. So I think that the personality is kind of an autonomic system. So we get more into depth there, but good.
Well, I was just going to say, with all these styles, every person hears things differently. And that's what gets frustrating for a lot of people. They're like, well, I've said this stuff over and over, or I keep telling this buyer that they can't do this and they can't do that. Why are they frustrated? Why is this a surprise? Why do they keep coming back and asking me the same things over and over? Why don't they understand? You know, I think all of this, that's where the noise starts to happen.
So let me do real quick, jump and do some sales training for you. Never say can't. So I was, oh, we can't make changes.
Exactly.
And then the buyer goes, oh, you can't? I'm so sorry. You know what I mean? Well, I think you can because you're a builder. So I change it to we won't. You know, the builder has chosen not to. And I go very similar to Toyota. I mean, Toyota could do custom lowriders and this, and you could customize the dashboard, but they choose not to. And, you know, maybe that's a bad decision on Toyota's part, but that's the process that they've taken. And our builder has chosen similar processes. So they decided they will not make the changes. And then I go into that. And so then you retain a little bit of power. The customer's not like, I think you can make changes. You're just not talking to the manager. And if I could talk to the manager, I could convince the manager, and I'm the buyer and I want to get what I want. Does that make sense? So can't is telling the people, look, we just don't know how, I'm incompetent. Whereas if I say, look, we choose not to, here's the process. And I compare it to a company that they're familiar with and they understand they can't just go customize a Toyota.
Yeah,
so
well, and that goes back to that why. So not only do we have to understand their why, they need to understand our why.
Yeah.
This is who we are. This is what we do. And explaining that is a value proposition, because then the customer can see the value, or they can choose to go elsewhere. Because not every builder builds for every buyer, of course.
Yeah, very true. So real quick to the Enneagram, what's in Myers-Barnes, by the way, I keep wanting to call him Myers-Briggs because we're talking about Myers, but he has a
flow together, yeah.
where, you know, and this was this was years ago, he had this video. It says, don't ask customers what they think, because, you know, when we think, we're kind of like left brain, left brain, left brain. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about the kitchen? What do you think about the dining room? I present the backyard. Hey, what do you think about the backyard? At the end of the presentation, the customer goes, I need to go home and what?
Think about it.
I need to go home and think
about what we've been talking about. Yeah.
So instead, he says, ask the customer, how do you feel? How do you feel about the kitchen? How do you feel about this? Nobody ever says, I want to go home and feel about it. You know, they say, I feel good. Then you summarize, hey, I noticed you felt great about the kitchen. You felt this is the right thing. But what he's doing is he's tapping into more than just the thought and the feeling. But I would add a third, which is the instinct. So there's three centers of intelligence. And if you want to go to the next slide, I'll show you basically what it looks like. Okay. By the way, let me back up and explain real quick one more thing about the Enneagram. Ennea literally just means 9, and gram means drawing. So this is the Enneagram, and it has next slide, that one. So see how it has 9 at the top, 8, 9, and 1. That's the instinctive center. So these people will make instinctive decisions. The feeling center is 2, 3, and 4, and the thinking center is 5, 6, and 7. So 8 is the challenger, 9 is the peacemaker, type 1 is the perfectionist, but they're driven by their gut. Now there's research now that says that the gut is actually like, they call it the second brain. We get more emotions from our gut than we do even our brain, right? And you know that from talking to the analytical buyer, they're actually very slow, even though you would think that, you know, if they're in their brain, they would be very quick. Well, if you ever watch nature videos where they have to slow it down when a tiger is attacking, a deer or something like that, that's because they're as an instinctual creature, you know, the lion is not thinking, oh, which direction is this animal going? His whole body is into it. So there will be buyers that will literally purchase with their whole body. And they're very powerful. Eight. So let's just start with 8 because they're simple. You know, eights, you just know an 8 when they come in. They're just like power. Like you walk up and you say, hey, how you doing? Welcome. Yeah, that's nice. That's cool. What's your name again? Yeah. Hey, we're just looking. And by the way, I need the price for this. And they just start taking control. I love 8s because you always know where they stand. You always know what they're about. They're super rough and abrasive. But I know they're very decisive. So a lot of people are turned off by 8s. I love dealing with 8s. So a great technique is to match their energy. You know, if I'm dealing with 8, I'm like, you know, absolutely, sir. I never withhold any information. They like to test people. They want to test your mettle. You know, they might say something controversial like, yeah, these Cracker Jack boxes. And I'm gonna say, oh, so what building company are you from? So are you a GB98 or what? You know what I mean? And they're like, touche. And they kind of like a little bit of controversy. That's what's so strange. So you would think like, does everybody hate conflict? No, 8s actually
they thrive on it.
But
they also don't want too much information too fast. So like you have to give them the bullet points, and then if they want more, they'll ask for it. If you try to go into total detail, if they ask you about the watch and you start talking about how to build a watch, you know, that you're going to lose them so fast because you get 3 bullet points.
Tell me the time. Don't build me a clock. Tell me what time it is. That's their slogan, right?
Yeah.
So their core fear is betrayal. They do not like withheld information because withheld information could be used against them. They don't have to be in control, but do not try to control them. This is the fascinating part about sales. And this is where I'm not saying it makes sales training irrelevant, but you know, you'll say, hey, you got to control the sale. Well, with which type? If you try to control an 8, it's just not going to work. It's going to fail. So
that's why it's so important to ask those questions so you get an idea. If you just launch into your pre-planned presentation all the time, you're going to miss all this stuff. That's why we have to ask those discovery questions and really start peeling back the onion, I like to say, so that we can get to know people and start to see these traits to identify the better ways to communicate with them. Yeah. So go on with the 9. Sorry.
Yeah. 8s are the controller. They're literally the challengers. They like to fight. They make quick decisions. They don't even need to say, hey, what do you think about it? What do you feel about it? They'll say, hey, I'll take lot number 8 with the Tuscan exterior. We're going to do this. And they just kind of know they know what they're doing. 9 is the peacemaker. 9s get along with everybody. They're the ones that, you know, you just love, they get along, but they're still in the controlling triad. They are, if you see kind of in the center, there's the triangle there. They're in the kind of the disconnection. It's hard to describe. Anyway, 9s, 3s, and 6s are in the disconnection triad, right? But they're disconnecting from themselves. 9s are disconnecting from their emotions to keep the peace. So they're opposite of 8. They hate conflict. They like things copacetic. They're very even-keeled. But it's very hard to draw out, well, how do you feel about this? They're the person that when you say, hey, do you want to go out to eat? Sure. Where do you want to go? I don't care. Wherever you want to go. And it's like, I want to figure out where they're at, but they ultimately keep the peace. They're typically like the middle child, not always, but they feel like their presence doesn't matter. They have kind of they mirror people. So they're very comfortable around them, but it's tough. They can become very they're very complacent, but they can become stubborn. Does that make sense? And
as a
get a reaction from them.
As a salesperson, that to me is one of the harder ones because everything's nice, everything's fine until it isn't. And so when you get to the point where you start to get uncomfortable in this scenario with, oh, we're going to write a purchase agreement, that's where then you can start to see some of these other things, these underlying tendencies come out because they're pushed out of their comfort zone to a point that now they can't just quite go along.
Yeah. So let's go back to the main screen so we can talk. So type 1 is the perfectionist. By the way, so you ever hear like, oh, I found you the perfect little home. I see these business cards like, we build dream homes. You're a dream home builder. There is no dream home, right? And if you deal with a type 1, you say, hey, I found you the perfect little home. They'll say, well, show it to me. I'll show you what's wrong with it. And it's not that they're seeking perfection. It's that imperfections are seeking them. And they develop kind of this they develop kind of an inner critic. They're the little kid that's like, what a good little boy. What a good little girl. And they kind of, you'll see them, they're very straight when they come in. They're very stiff and rigid, but in the back of their mind, man, they're scanning, they're finding just imperfections, and ultimately they have a core desire to be good and to righteous. They're like the judge of the Enneagram, right? Where they are kind of weighing things, and they don't want to make a bad decision. They don't want to. That goes back to the core motivation. They want someone to say, "Well, it was a very reasonable, responsible decision, and you're a good human." If you're their kind of person, if you're at Walmart and you've got 21 items and it says 20 items or less, they're counting your items and they're saying, tss, tss. Oh, you didn't put your cart back. They can become kind of critical. But on the good side, they follow. I work for a type 1. I mean, they follow processes. They're always relentlessly improving things. But they have a core motive of being good, right? So 8 wants to be in control. They want to be, they have power. They seek power. 9 is their home is their sanctuary. They're seeking peace. And type 1 is seeking good. They are literally trying to bring evil and bad out of the world, not to bring religious stuff, but they're trying to make things good.
As they see it, yeah.
In their gut, right? So, and they're in the control triad. So 8 is trying to control their outer world, and you can feel their power trying to control you and everybody around them. 1s are trying to control their inner world, and they're very restrained and tight and rigid, and they're trying to be good, and they're trying to control all of this human nature inside of them. And 9s kind of disconnect from their spirit or soul or inner heart or whatever, and they try to keep the peace, but then you really don't know who and what they are. So it's fascinating, but that's the instinctual triad, and all 3 of them are trying to control or not be controlled, rather. Going back to 2, 3, and 4, and we can talk more. I'll do kind of a quicker summary, and you got to keep me track on time. But 2s, 3s, and 4s.
You want me to go back so people can see it?
Yeah, just for like a quick second, so I can show whether. So 2 is the helper, 3 is the achiever, and 4 is the individualist. And so 2, 3, and 4. 2 is the helper, 3 is the achiever, and 4 is the individualist or artist. So 2, 3, and 4, they're in the feeling center. Now switch back. So we can head mode. So all 3 of these are dealing with a sense of, am I enough? There are some sales trainers where they do a whole big seminar, and at the end, the big takeaway is like, and I am enough, or everybody needs to shout, I am enough, right? And half the people are like with tears down their eyes. The other half of people are like, well, I mean, it was cool, and that's because it's really reaching it's called the shame triad or the heart triad, where they go, am I lovable? Type 2 doesn't know if they're lovable. 3 is, am I worth anything apart from my achievements? And 4 is, do I have an identity? And they go through this, it creates this habit pattern from way back from when they were a child. I have a daughter who I think is a 2. And she's always trying to help and to help and to help. And then we reciprocate with like, wow, you're so helpful. But it creates this pattern of like, I'm loved because I'm helpful. So I always say, hey, Juliana, why does daddy love you? And I make her say, just because I'm me, because I'm trying to get her out of that loop, right? because if she feels, otherwise the rest of her life, she's going to be trying to meet the needs of other people to feel loved. And sometimes people don't reciprocate that, right? Yeah. And anyway, I'm kind of getting off track there, but the type 2, when they're shopping for a home, they're not looking for themselves. So if we're trained to uncover the needs of the customer, literally the type 2 doesn't have any needs. Oh, no, I'm good. What's going through their mind is all of the needs of all of the kids and the grandkids, and what about our neighbors? If you ask a 2 what they need, they're like, no, I'm good. Because their childhood pattern is they received the message that they're lovable and they're loved and they're valued if they're meeting the needs of other people, right? And so they kind of disconnect from themselves and take this approach where they're shining the light at everybody else, meeting the need. There are a lot of salespeople that are needs that are type 2s, and they're very, very good because they have a superpower. They're almost like not prophetic, but like psychic, because they can understand your needs. Like, hey, you haven't eaten yet today, have you? You seem a little bit stressed, and they kind of can pick up on the needs of other humans. They've got
very empathic.
Very empathic. But if you ask them what they need, they don't have any needs, right? So that's the 2.
So are these like the problem solver people? They're trying to solve everybody else's problems, never their own? They
could be, but really at their core, they want to be loved because they don't know, am I lovable? Am I lovable just from being me? No, I have to do this and do this and do this and do this. So
It would be interesting if you had a type 2 then that's looking for a home just for themselves, but they probably wouldn't phrase it that way. They would probably, I'm looking for a home so that when company comes, so that when, am I hearing that right?
Yeah, and you can, okay, so there's three types of people. There's assertive, there's withdrawn, and there's supportive, right? So I think aggressive, I know you don't like that word, but aggressive,
Yeah.
Withdrawn, and supportive. Type 7, 8, and 3, 7, and 8 are aggressive types. So somebody comes in and I kind of feel their energy moving against me, like, okay, like back up, like you can just, their body language. I know that I'm dealing with either a 3, a 7, or an 8. Somebody comes in, I can feel them withdrawing, like, oh yeah, we're just kind of looking, can we go? You can just feel them pulling away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're the withdrawn. So withdrawn would be 4, 5, or 9. Somebody comes in and they're just like, oh, hi, how are you? Oh, so we're not bothered. Have you eaten? We can just, and then you just feel like they're like this engulfing you with this supportive, empathetic, energy that moves toward, but it's not against. I know I'm dealing with the supportive type, which is a 1, 2, or a 6. And so I'm breaking it down into energy. So really the Enneagram is kind of like what I've been trying to pioneer, and it's very difficult. And my ultimate conclusion is you cannot do this. So I got 3 rules of the Enneagram, but I'm trying to pioneer like an advanced sales system where, you can type people fast. And I've become kind of good at it. But the problem is it's tough because you're not dealing with outside activities or outside, you're not dealing with the exterior.
The thing is, we all have a little bit of all of this, right? So
yeah, but you're dealing with the motivation. So I can't, even if you're acting like a supportive type, your motive might be something totally different. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, but understanding that understanding that there are 9 core motivations is a game changer, because then you can say, instead of, hey, we find the perfect home, or we find a home that meets all of your needs. You'll see builders are like, no, we're dedicated to meeting your needs. There's sales trainers that like, you got to uncover their needs, probably a type 2 sales trainer. You got other sales trainers that are focusing on achieving. Hey, we got to set goals. Let's achieve the goals. It's about the numbers. It's a numbers game. Probably a type 3. There's not many 4 and 5 sales trainers, but there could be, especially the high end cerebral sales, like in the computer systems and stuff like that. But let's just go back to 2, 3, and 4. So 2 is in the heart. They're the helper, right? 3 is the achiever. 4 is the individualist. 2 questions, am I lovable? Well, maybe if I meet the other needs, so they're going to be focusing on the needs of other people in hopes of like reciprocating that love. 3s, they question, am I valuable? Am I enough? And so that's where you hear the thing like, I am enough, because when they feel like they're enough, then they can relax and stop trying to compete and start feeling complete and start, doing things not based upon, does this give me value, but do I really like it, right? 4's question, do I have an identity? You ever seen that show, or that I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo,
no, I don't think I've seen that one.
it's a song, but anyway, like, they feel like they're defective. They feel like they don't have an identity. As a child, they kind of looked at the mom and they go, I'm not really like my mom. They look at the dad and say, I'm not really like my dad, and who am I? So they kind of go on this journey of self-discovery, and they go deep into their emotions, and they will bring up emotions that are and they're expressing themselves artistically. For some reason, they always like teal or purple. Like if you come in with like one weird purple scarf or something like that, and they're in the withdrawn pattern. There's typically artistic, sometimes, not always, really, they're very sensitive. They're very emotionally attuned. So back to this is our most popular plan. Kimberly, is that good or bad?
It depends on what type you are. Depends on what you're looking for.
If you're dealing with a type 4, that would be bad, because they're trying to be unique, special, different, one of a kind. They're trying to express through their outer world who they are in their inner world, because their core fear is, I don't have an identity. Isn't that fascinating? So if I tell them like, if I deal with a 4 and I sense that I'm dealing with a 4, they're withdrawing from me. They're kind of artistic. They're sensitive. I can kind of feel that energy. I'm not gonna be like, hey, this is our most popular. Everybody likes this one. That's like their big nightmare, being in the same house as everybody else. So I'll talk about how every home is unique. Everyone is a unique.
Unique is going to be the key.
Allow them. What?
I said unique is going to be the key. You've got to
Unique,
use
special,
words like unique, special. Yes.
But these are the kids in high school.
Yeah.
That they become goth. So the downside of a 4 is they lose their creativity and they start just creating costumes that doesn't really become their identity. Does that make sense? They're trying to create an identity without truly being creative. But at their best, they're original creators of just amazing artwork, amazing. TJ that I work with, everything. Now, it was very frustrating. If I didn't understand the Enneagram, we couldn't work together.
No, because he's very creative. Yeah.
No, and what I would do is I've learned I just have to give him creative control, because if I'm trying hey, I want to do it, like sometimes I'm a 7. I just want things done quick, and he wants to put his fingerprints on everything. I mean, every piece of work that he does, every video. You can go to newhomesales.com, our YouTube channel, watch some of the videos. Just everything's artistically done, and I actually paid for video graphics for like the names and stuff to pop up, and I'm like, hey, just use these. And he didn't. He recreated his own from scratch. And I'm like, no, that took 3 days. You know what I mean? But when he's on, man, he's a superpower. He's unbelievable.
I work with a lot of people like that. I might be married to one of them. I'm not sure. No, I know. Yeah. I know I am.
Well, if you are, we can talk about it, because I am. And it's amazing. It's amazing. So each one is truly unique and special and different. So understand there's a group of people that are trying to control. That's the 8, 9, and 1. And they do it in 3 different ways. 8s control their outer world. 1s are controlling their inner world. 9s are disconnecting from themselves, but they're still being controlling because I'm disconnecting. They're still controlling because you're not able to pin them down. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. They're just kind of amorphous. They kind of move around. Now you got 2, 3s, and 4s. They're questioning: am I enough? Am I lovable? Am I successful? Do I have an identity? Now you get to the head triad: 5, 6, and 7.
Before we move on to 5, 6, and 7, let me interrupt you. So, sure. So Wade is asking us which type would be okay with our salespeople asking the prospect which number they are when they walk into our model. Now that's interesting, because most people probably don't know.
You're at the beginning of the beginning. This was, by the way, Huffington Post ranked this the #1 system, again, because it talks about the core motivations, and it's dynamic. It shows where they go in stress and where they go when they're feeling secure. So it's called integrated or disintegrated. Okay. For instance, let's take
question though, Wade.
Yeah, no, great. I wouldn't do that, but I'm never manipulative with the Enneagram. Like if I am like talking to a person, I might say like, hey, look, I mean, have you ever heard of the Enneagram? And I may kind of describe, there's ways to do it, but I'm never like doing it sneaky. Does that make sense? But
manipulating people is just it doesn't work long term, and it builds distrust. People know when they're being manipulated. So
what I'm trying to do is to break people free.
Molly says you knew hers by talking to her for 2 minutes. So
yeah. So I'm trying to break people free from the one like achieve your dreams at this community and find the perfect home, meet all your needs, express yourself in this unique identity. Each type, even marketers now, there's a hearing aid company, and they're like 9 reasons why you should use our company. Reason number 1, and they were speaking to each type, core motivation of each type, right?
Yeah.
And we can get back. We'll talk about the sales rally from 2 years ago. I used the Enneagram in my in the presentation to make sure that everybody was at least touched, even with one phrase. Does that make sense? Mm. And so it's powerful. So next one, 5, 6, and 7. They're in the head triad. Underneath, okay, so 8, 9, and 1, the core emotion underneath that is anger, and it expresses itself from not wanting to be controlled. 8, 9, and 1. 2, 3, and 4, there's a feeling of shame, and they're, again, questioning whether I'm enough. 5, 6, and 7, they're dealing with underlying anxiety, underlying emotion of anxiety, okay? And they deal with it in 3 different ways. So there's the instinctive center, they're dealing with control. The feeling center is dealing with a sense of shame in the idea like, am I enough? And the thinking center is dealing with anxiety, and they express it 3 different ways. So go back to the main screen. Imagine you're in an island and it's being invaded, and you got 3 responses. The first group of people says, okay, you know what? I'm gonna create a bunker, and they just go deep within, and they create these hidden bunkers, and they're watching. They've got cameras, and they're watching. They've got security sensors and stuff like that, but you can't see them. They're hidden. They can see you, but you can't see them. That's like the type 5. Then you have the type 7 that's like, I'm gone. Like, we're being invaded. I'm gonna just run. We're gonna be on a boat, and I'm gonna be on an airplane, then I'm gonna be swimming, and all this different stuff. But the idea is they're running from anxiety. Then the type 6 is they're all about the team and the group. They're saying, if we team up, if we do this together, you can count on me, but can I count on you? They're trying to team up against the anxiety, but all 3 of them are dealing with a sense of anxiety. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So the type 5 is the investigator. They're really like the compliant type on the disc, or the owl if you're following Charles Clark. But they're the
we're dating ourselves with that whole Charles with
I don't care.
Wolf, Elves, and Tigers. Tells you how long we've been in this business.
I'm just saying that if you type that, they're the analyst if you're following that one. But again, the 4,
right.
There's a joke in the industry. If you can rename the 4, you can start a training program just by coming up with the STAR, the blue, orange, green, yellow. But I'm not being critical. I think they're a profound system.
Well, the disc itself, I mean, that changed me. It changed how I trained people. It changed how I communicated with people, and it doesn't go as deep as this, because this really, like you said, gets down to the motivation. But even if you just understood the disc profile,
it's great.
You're going to have your communication styles are going to be so improved just by knowing who you're dealing with.
So how many sales trainers do they say get to know the customer?
Probably most of us.
Is that good or bad advice?
So I believe it is good, because they won't hear you if you don't understand them.
It's terrible.
First to understand, then be understood.
It's terrible advice if you're dealing with a 5. If you start
because they won't let you get to know.
They are guarded. They're the ones hiding in the bunker, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are gathering information, but they don't want to give it.
And you'll know it when it's like.
And if I deal with a 5, I'm almost like dangerous, because somebody will come in, I'll sense that they're 5, they're an engineer. Hey, welcome, and I'll say like, look, and I give them tons of information, and I receive no information. I don't even ask. I don't need their name. I don't need where you're from. I need you to sign in. They hate that stuff, right? I mean, obviously we're in a different market now where people are desperate, and you could probably extract some information, but the more information
they'll probably give it to you on their website.
The more information they give you, I think cryptocurrency was created by 5s. Literally, it's 5s because they're completely autonomous. They don't want to go through. Everything has to be. I had a guy who was literally an investigator with the FBI, and he's like, listen, it's really important. I don't want to know. People don't want to. I think it's.
Well, if you talk to Elon Musk, that's exactly how he would explain it. He did on Saturday Night Live. It was hilarious.
Let me go take a picture of you and post it on Facebook. Terrible with a 5. That's like their worst nightmare. Mm-hmm. Let me show you where your bunker is, right? So with a 5, when they come in, and they're almost like that, you can tell their head is like they're literally in the process of disconnecting from their body and living in their head, right? And they get security by gathering information. They feel insecure when they're giving information, right?
Sure.
And they're dealing with anxiety. So understanding that's a powerful thing. So when I start asking, hey, where are you from? Are you from here? What type of job? What do you do here, brother? Bad, wrong approach.
You'll absolutely know right away. And these are the people that get myopic. I mean, I've had them. What's the horsepower of the garbage disposal? Answer their questions.
Yeah, you need.
And you're like, horsepower of the garbage disposal. What the?
It's a quarter horsepower mowing, and it's backed up by a 2-year warranty. So they'll get. I give them the
answer. Yeah, always answer that question. And if you don't know, find out.
Yeah. So 6s, I tell you, I love my 6s. They're the reason the world isn't exploding right now. When you see. The election and this, you think, oh my gosh, everything's going to fall apart. There's a lot of like law enforcement officers that are type 6s. And you would think, man, with all the stuff going on, if I was a police, I just wouldn't show up to work. They are loyal to the end, and they just show up. They're the soldier, they're the firefighters. They come in. If you have a Dodgers hat on and a Dodgers shirt, and you see a Dodgers logo, they almost feel like they're expressing to the world, like, I am loyal. you know, and they hate like the bandwagon people. So if you ask like, hey, how long have you, what if the Dodgers don't play well? It's like, that's not why I follow them. I follow them because, no, the reason why they follow them is because they have a sense of insecurity and anxiety. And they feel like if they team up and they're expressing to the world, you can count on me. I am loyal. Secretly, they want to know, can I count on you? Can I count on you? And they're going to, and now this is what's fascinating. They're troubleshooters. They're literally looking for what could go wrong. So here's a secret if you're dealing with a type 6. Tell them what could go wrong. I will literally use words like, hey, guess what? Here's the worst case scenario. You want to know the worst? This is a problem that we often find when we're building homes. And they're just like, the more problems I talk about, their anxiety level is just like, oh my gosh, and nobody else is talking about it. They're all the other salespeople are finding them the perfect little home. I talk about my team. I talk about all the challenges we're going to face. We actually are struggling right now with this, and this is a problem that often arises with the trusses. So what we've done with
expectation setting.
And not even expectations. I'm letting them know that, look, we've got challenges, but we're a team. We're trusted. We've teamed up and we align ourselves with some of the best and most trusted trades. After you move in, we're not going to outsource the warranty. We've got a local, and I'm going to tell you something, you can count on me. And
but words like best, and so you get, those are like broader words for those people. So these people are ranked, so-and-so, if you can third party source,
so if
that gives comfort to that analytical type person.
What could go wrong and what is your team?
Yeah.
Right. So like, well, look,
how did you select them?
There could be rain. So to overcome that, we prepared ourselves with this. There could be delays because of instruction. But when that happens, our team does this. Man, they get kind of relaxed and they really want to know. If you're 5 minutes late, they're thinking, what if this was an emergency? What if this was this? Yeah. What if it was that? You need your 6 friends, by the way. They're the best. Like if I ever have my car is issue, I call my friend Mark. Mark, he's like, I'll be right there. And he's got like the industrial cable jumpers and like, look guys, when the collapse happens, you need like 1 or 2 6 friends because they've got purified water and battery electric and backup. Don't get in a fight with them as far as their sports teams because they're like us versus them, and they're very suspicious. They're very reactive. They like to test, but not like the 8 to test your power. The 6 is trying to test, like, can I count on you? Can I count on you? You're going to be there? Is your team this? How long have you been in business? How long have you been with this builder? So do you live at Hicks Builder? And they're suspicious. They're often suspicious. And they're often a basket of opposites. They're very hard to type because they're both an introvert and an extrovert. They're scared and they're confident. Anyway, so that's the 6.
And you said that with the whole introvert, extrovert. I think the one point that we want to make sure that we make is that, again, we all have these kinds of types. So there isn't a good type and a bad type. If you're an introvert, you're an extrovert. People say, oh, a salesperson can't be an introvert. Well, they can. So that comes from, the Myers-Briggs, where they get their energy. So kind of all of these things play a role in helping us to determine the different personality styles and the different traits of these personality styles.
And that's really good point. And let me also share this. You have all 9 types. I have all 9 types. They're literally just human nature characteristics. So, but I want you to imagine there's a table, okay? And that table has 4 legs. Or let's say a chair, or bar stool has 4 legs. If I shaved an inch off of that bar stool, what happens?
It's going to be wobbly. Yeah.
It wobbles. Now, does it have 3 legs or 4 legs?
I don't know. You said it had 4.
It's got 4. Even if I shave it off, it just has that wobble. So all humans have a wobble. They have a little bent. The challenge is that bent, that little wobble, can create huge differences long-term in their life, because it becomes kind of like the right hand versus the left hand thing, right? I'm right-handed. Even though I've got 2 hands, I start using my right hand and overusing that hand. Ideally, you want to tap into all 9 types, even as for you, Kimberly, right? Like going through, as a whole human, we're trying to get out of our wobble and into our holistic self.
Well, and I think of it like wearing different hats. So if I'm talking to my builder clients and the principal of the company, or the division president, or, the leadership, my communication style is going to be very different. It may be the same message, but I'm going to deliver it in a different way than I'm delivering it to one of my salespeople or the marketing person.
Why?
And
If it's the type, if I have a type 6 salesperson and a type 6 leader, they should be communicated almost the same. Does that make sense?
yes, but
Not
in
the
most
position.
cases, I find that I'm not dealing with the same types.
Sure.
And that's where the conflict happens within the company, is that because this person has this personality type and this person has this one, they're talking like this to each other.
Yeah.
And they're causing fear, they're causing anxiety within their own team. But understanding that other person, and I always make that part of one of the initial things that I do when I go into a company, is to really understand those different personality types, and which then might be the more dominant if multiple show up, because we all, it's not
And
that you're schizophrenic, we all have multiple.
There's a really good book by Cialdini, and it's called Influence, right? And it
Mhm.
talks about the 6 laws of influence. There's consistency, likability, authority, scarcity, social proof, and reciprocity. So if you understand the 6 laws of influence, these are the 6 ways that we are influenced, the things that really impact and influence us. But he didn't write the book to teach you how to influence people. He wrote it so that you understood when you were being manipulated. Does that make sense? So you
Right.
can say, oh, wait a second. Somebody comes to your door and says, hey, here, I'm going to give you a free sample. Okay, but you don't owe him reciprocity for that. Reciprocity is a thing like my mom's on the side of the road. When I'm stuck, I'm going to go get her. Can't say I'm busy because, man, I have so much reciprocity towards my mom, right?
It's your mom,
so
right?
people are
Yeah.
trying to tap into that power that holds our society together and use it to sell solar panels and something like that. So with the Enneagram, I'm not trying to teach this to, okay, now this is how you get into a 6's mind. This is how you get into the 7. This is how you do it. But what I'm trying to do is to expand our empathetic awareness of the 9 types. Understand that there are different core motivations. So and just the same way as if somebody came in from a different culture, if I studied their culture and understood, hey, this culture is not comfortable with me getting too close, or this one's very comfortable with handshaking, this one wants to bow. If I understand that, I can be more effective and more courteous, conscientious, and ultimately empathetic.
Well, Dr. Covey tells us, seek first to understand, then be understood. So if you do step back, you don't just regurgitate stuff and start, just talking at people. You do get a chance to really step back and make that difference. I mean, one of the things that I teach a salesperson who's in a sales center is to invite the person into the kitchen. And I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. Number one, of course, the kitchen's the heart of the home.
Yep.
But number two is it gives me a few minutes to kind of start to have a little bit of chit-chatty conversation, maybe that you think is irrelevant. But I have one of my salespeople call it chit chat with a purpose. Yep. And it really kind of is, just so you get an opportunity to kind of figure out what type of personality that you're dealing with, so that you can better communicate, so you can be better for them. You can't expect them to be better for you. You have to be better for them.
Yeah, I agree.
So
we'll wrap up just the last one, the 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they say don't sell the sizzle, don't sell the steak, sell the sizzle.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what it's going to be like here and there? These are the guys that underneath it's anxiety. You wouldn't know they're anxious. Underneath all my energy in this is a frenetic energy of anxiety, right? And if I stop, that it's like it catches up to me. Then I'm like on to the next thing, right? So the 7s will sign up 5 minutes after you meet them. All you got to do is say, hey, look, can you imagine what it's going to be like here at the party with people in the back and here, and you're teaching an Enneagram conference to them, and they're just like, yeah, sign up. And they sign up and they're like, oh, whoa. But their fear is being trapped, right? So they've got this, they're the ones that'll cancel on you, or they're squeezing too many things. Yep. But literally right after this, I have the sales rally, right? That's coming up, but I've got
sales rally 2.0,
2.0, that kind of stuff. So, okay, real quick. So when I did the first sales rally, right, in Vegas, and at the very end of my talk, I knew I wanted to reach everybody. So I said, hey, look, I want you to seek perfection. Like in this business, and just become, you always be improving. As a matter of fact, I want you to shoot for perfection, type 1. But type 2, don't forget the love that you have, for your customers and for your thing. Now I'm reaching into the type 2 world, like, they're like, oh yeah, love, we got to meet the needs of our customers. And I want you to set big goals for number 3, goals that are so big that if you people knew about them, that you'd be embarrassed to, find out, but just set huge goals. And I want you to achieve those goals. But number 4, don't lose your individual, who you are as a person, your authentic, true self, and, become true to yourself. That's the 4. Then number 5, I want you to investigate your craft like you're a scientist. I want you to learn every little thing, from the electric to the garbage disposal, the brand and the horsepower, but don't forget about the team. Be a team player. Take that information and share it. So I'm going to type 6. Be a person that you can be counted on and all this stuff. I'm talking about type 6. And number 7, infuse joy in what you do. Too often we've turned our job into an interrogation process where, into the paperwork and this. We don't have any fun. You make it fun. Add joy and humor in this. But don't be, if that's the type 7, but don't be afraid to take on big challenges, to take control, to do. That's the type 8, that they love taking on the big challenges. But above all, be a human that brings everybody together, brings humans together. And ultimately we're connectors. We're, bring harmony into your position. And that's the type 9. And I said, we live in a discorded, dysfunctional world. Be a human that helps other people to heal and to bring their emotions together and all that stuff. So that was at the end of my sales, right? To kind of tap quietly tap into each type and make them feel heard and seen. And we could do that with our customers and with our marketing and with our processes moving forward.
But at the end of the day, aren't all of those things that you said, regardless of which personality you were trying to speak to at that moment, they're all really noble things. They're all really, important things.
They're all good, but one of them is really going to strike.
Right.
One of them's going to strike and say, wow, you know what? I want a one-of-a-kind home that's just, it's so it's a fascinating, guys. It goes deep. If you want to go
this is not something we're learning in an hour.
In 15 minutes, I can say, perfectionist, helper, achiever, individualist, investigator, the loyalist, enthusiast, the challenger, the peacemaker, quickly describe each type. But then you can get into the integration and disintegration. For instance, let's take a type 3. I know we're wrapping this up, but type 3 is the achiever. But when they feel like they're enough, when they feel like, you know what, I am safe and I don't need to compete and I'm a person that's complete, then I'm going to take the spotlight off of me and use it as a flashlight to help guide other people. And they become like you, Kimberly, where they say, hey, you know what? Hey, team. Hey, sales team. We're going to go to the top of the mountain and we're going to look good doing it. And I'm going to show you the way. Right. And they lift other people up because a lot of people don't know how to climb the mountain. They don't know how to set goals. They don't know how to stay on track. But when they're
to lift others, to do do those things, you have to understand others to be able to do that.
Yeah. So what happens with each type, they have kind of and that's the other reason why it's very hard to spot a type, because I don't know if they're stressed out or if they're integrated. Right.
Right. We all have adapted styles. Yeah.
When a type 3 feels like, hey, I'm being made, they're making me look bad. I'm not doing well right now. I can't achieve these goals. They kind of go back to 9. So the 3 is connected to the 6 and the 3 is connected to the 9. When they're stressed out, they move to the 9, the negative side of 9, which is, why try? Just kind of go to sleep kind of thing and check out. Okay? Whereas when they're secure, they move to the 6, which is the ultimate team player. But instead of just being a 6, like one of the group, they lead them up to the top of the mountain. But each type has that integration and disintegration. All that to say is it's a fascinating system. I could train in 15 minutes, give you the basics, and you could spend 5 years just going deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's a beautiful thing. And frankly, not saying it gets bored, but once you study your home and you study, hey, okay, I got a half horsepower, quarter horsepower mowing, garbage disposal, and I got low E argon windows with 25% thicker glass and titanium oxide. Once you know that stuff, then it becomes not boring, but what are you going to do next? So this has allowed me just personally to have deep satisfaction at work, at home, my friends, and I never stop studying it. It keeps going deeper and deeper.
I think this is far more important than studying your product. Not that I'm not saying knowing your product is not important. That's not what I'm saying. You should know your product.
5, all they want to know about is the product. Each type is different. Type 2 wants to know, or do you care? Are you a person that cares? But a 5, they just want to know product.
Right.
They don't care if you care about them or not. Like they want to know,
Yeah. So you have to have a little bit of all of it. To wrap up my story that I started about my salesperson in Phoenix, when he identified and we went through all of his sales that he had, and he realized that he was only selling to his own personality type, then we were able to ask different questions. We changed up his questions. We didn't change up the answers. We changed the questions. And we even physically changed where he asked the questions, which gave him a mental prompt. And it expanded the type of buyer that he was able to sell to, because then he started going, wait, if this is my cue, I'm free to listen. I'm free to hear. And he started to hear what some of the other people were saying, where before he couldn't hear it. It was just noise to him. So that's why I think this is so important. And again, not something that you're going to learn in just an hour for doing it. So we are at the top of the hour, Quint. We could go on and on for days about this, but we are definitely at the top of the hour. I do want to give our audience, I think, just got enthralled. We didn't lose anybody, but it looks like. But do you guys have any questions before we go? Is there a website that they can go to for more information? Oh, you're on mute.
I'm typing mine. So this is one of mine, Enneagram coach. I also have Enneagram Institute. I'll type that one.
Oh, so Molly wants to know, I assume Molly, are you asking Quint?
Oh, Enneagram Institute. Sorry, can you type that out? I am a type 7.
So, and I don't know, did we figure out what I am?
I think I know what it is, but dude, okay, so here's some rules. No good type, no bad type. Don't use it as a sword or a shield. And what I mean is like, hey, stop being touch a type 5, you know what I mean? Get off your, whatever.
Absolutely, yeah. You
And
can't narrow somebody down to
shield,
that.
like, okay, earlier today, right, when you're doing your sound check, I'm trying to find my tie, and you could have been like, you're such a type 7, you're always just getting organized.
I found it really amusing.
But don't use it as a shield or a sword. And then try not to type people, because man, I've been studying this for years and I'm wrong a lot. I can find kind of the triad. I can usually type if somebody's an aggressive type, a supportive type, a withdrawn type, but it's hard to type people. So don't walk around going like, oh, you're such a 3, you're this, because you find out you're wrong. You know what I mean? A lot. But use it to understand yourself. That's the main tool.
Right.
And then to create a level of empathy and expand the vision of your company. So if you have something like for all your needs for this, or, achieve your dream with us, or find the perfect home, your dream home awaits, understand that you might be missing certain types. That make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Molly, to answer, I don't know, on the Enneagram, on the disc, I'm an adapted ID. So, on the left-hand side of the chart. So, but under stress, then my D can go much higher. So, that I know about myself.
The question is, what causes you stress? Is it, hey, and this is where I would first, like, if we were typing, if you were working together to try to find your type, okay, I would say, hey, do you make head decisions, heart decisions, gut decisions? When you walk into a room, do you first scan? So I know that you're an assertive type. That's kind of, for me, evident,
obviously,
right? Because you're doing training. So it's like, so now I'm dealing with a 3, a 7, or an 8. Do you like to experience? Do you like to be in control? Do you like to achieve? Do you like to, how much is appearances do they matter? Not that it's bad. I mean, that's why we have spokespersons for companies, because they know the role. They can kind of adapt to the group. Can they read people? Can they, not chameleon, but are they adaptable?
I'm going to go take the test so I can find out.
Yeah, take the test. But even the test,
I could answer yes to all of those things. So I'm going to go take the test.
And the other thing is with the, I kind of forgot, but the test is not always accurate. And the reason why it's not accurate is because, like, are you this? Well, yeah, of course I'm conscientious. Of course you're this, but we're blind to ourselves.
Sure.
Does that make sense? We don't see. That's why, like, the thermometer goes,
hard to type somebody close to you too. Yeah.
So the real way to do it is to read. I would go to the Enneagram Institute, enneagraminstitute.com. I need to type that again. Institute. Why am I spelling it? Anyway.
You got to put two, yeah.
Yeah, enneagraminstitute.com. Read all 9 descriptions. When you go through the 9, all of a sudden it's going to hit like almost like a sense of embarrassment and shame. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, it exposes the core motivations and the operating systems. Does that make sense? So it's almost like almost too revealing. So when you kind of know it, when you have that sinking feeling like, oh my gosh, that's me. It is creepy. Like, the way it described me, if I read the type 7, it says, oh,
So It's a great
Often
exercise
busy.
though to go through. I think it's one of those things you don't take lightly, and you kind of go off by yourself and do it so you can be honest and free from distraction. But then I think it's also a good tool for a company to
Well,
understand who they are.
we say like every type is good. We like to say that.
Hmm.
Every type is also bad.
Of course.
Okay, and so like people are like, well, you can't put me in a box. I've got all 9. I'm all 9. Yep, you have all 9 character defects working very strongly within you, right? That's like,
Yeah.
well, no, I'm not all 9. Just dysfunctional. Yeah, no, we do. I'm the perfectionist. I'm the manipulator. I'm the achiever to try to out. We can be all 9 negative.
Yeah. We're going to have to wrap it up because
Yeah.
everybody's got to get back to work. So we're 5 minutes past, but you guys can see this is a really powerful tool and so many choices. Quint, thank you. Always. Thank you for sharing with us. And it's always fun. I always have a good time. You and I are like frick and frack. We're on the opposite sides of things. But it's so interesting to find out how much we have in common. And I think the passion for this industry is obviously one of those things we do. So thank you, my friend, for sharing with us today. And thanks everybody for joining us. We had a really great group and some really high-powered people on here. So if you need anything, reach out to us.
Got to do a plug for Sales Rally 2.0 coming up in about an hour, right?
I think so. Yes, at 2 o'clock, right?
Yeah,
Eastern time.
We'll do a recap on that.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks again, Quint. Bye-bye.